Tonight, the US-Israel war on Iran escalates, with leaders warning it's just the beginning. Travellers stranded with one of the world's busiest air corridors shut down. And oil supplies under threat, what it could mean for prices at the petrol pump. Good evening, I'm Bethanie Alderson. This is ABC News South Australia. Also tonight, heartfelt tributes for a motorcyclist who died in floodwaters in South Australia. And a dream start to the Women's Asian Cup as Sam Kerr leads Australia to victory. The widening war in the Middle East has spilled into more countries as the US and Israel intensify their assault on Iran. After the stunning confirmation of the Supreme Leader's death, the US claims to have killed nearly 50 other Iranian leaders. President Donald Trump says the fighting in the Gulf could last for weeks and has vowed revenge after the first confirmed American deaths in the war. The impact of the conflict is rippling around the world. Oil prices have jumped and travellers remain stranded with ongoing travel chaos at airports. We'll get the latest from the US shortly, but start in the Middle East with our correspondent Matthew Doran.
Exchanging fire in a widening war. Missiles light up the night sky as Israel and the US intensify their assault on Iran.
Our forces are now striking in the heart of Tehran with increasing intensity, which will grow even stronger in the coming days.
Newly released video from the Israeli military shows the moment the headquarters of Iran's powerful Revolutionary Guard was destroyed. Another blow to the regime following the death of Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. As the US presses its assault, video capturing the moment a fighter jet spirals to the ground over Kuwait. After a second night of strikes, the US and Israel say they hit more than 2,000 targets. A hospital was hit, as well as the offices of the Iranian state broadcaster.
I once again urge the Revolutionary Guard, the Iranian military, police, to lay down your arms and receive full immunity or face certain death.
Israel has also started attacking Hezbollah in Lebanon after the militant group entered the fray, firing rockets and drones across the border. Residents fleeing into the streets strewn with rubble and debris. As Iran and its proxies come under fire, the regime is lashing out in retaliation, hitting countries across the region. With luxury hotels and apartments coming under fire in Dubai.
No joking, guys, we have just been hit by a drone.
Travellers are stuck in other cities due to airspace closures. At least 9 were killed in an Iranian strike in the Israeli city of Beit Shemesh. And in occupied East Jerusalem, a missile hit a highway. Drone vision has revealed the extensive damage caused to a residential area in Tel Aviv on Saturday night, where one woman was killed. Shay Sagi wasn't at home at the time of the attack, seeing the destruction wrought by the shockwave, which destroyed the neighbouring building.
I'm shocked. I didn't imagine even how much damage. It's our house. We moved here 2 months ago after a long time of searching for a perfect apartment.
We are also bringing into this campaign the United States. This combination of forces enables us to do what I have long hoped to do for 40 years, to strike the terror regime decisively.
The Australian government supports that objective despite protests from the United Nations, which says the joint US and Israeli action has violated international law.
While Australia is not directly involved in current military strikes, we've been clear of our utter rejection of the brutal Iranian regime. We are concerned about regional escalation and the protection of civilians.
Ultimately, the legality of these measures is a matter for both the United States and Israel to go through.
Donald Trump says the newly appointed Iranian leadership has already made contact, claiming they want to talk. But just hours later, that insistence was rejected by a senior regime official, flatly stating we will not negotiate with the United States. A deepening conflict with no end in sight.
Let's bring in our correspondent Matthew Doran now. Matthew, you're near a synagogue that's been hit by Iranian fire outside Jerusalem. What have you seen?
Bethany, good evening too. You can see just how much damage has been wrought at this site as a result of that missile. This was a synagogue in a residential area of Beit Shemesh. It shows that even though Israelis are being told to seek shelter as these missiles are coming in, if it is a direct hit, people stand very little chance. And that is why we have seen at least nine people killed at this site, more than 40 injured. We are also seeing at missile sites like this across Israel, politicians coming out in support. Naftali Bennett, the aspiring prime ministerial candidate who's just over there, is inspecting the site, wanting to show support for the people and also show support for these attacks against Iran. What we will need to watch in the next short while is whether or not any other Iranian proxies start to attack Israel. Hezbollah began last night, met with a ferocious response. The Houthis could well join in the next short while. And we are seeing some reports coming out of the Gulf that Saudi Arabia has also now started to be attacked. If that happens and Saudi Arabia is drawn into this conflict, that will be a major escalation. Beth.
Matthew, thank you. Matthew Doran reporting there. The US president has announced the first American casualties from the conflict. 3 US service members have been killed in Iran's counter-offensive, and Donald Trump says there will likely be more.
The US war machine striking Iran's ballistic missile facilities.
We have hit hundreds of targets in Iran, including Revolutionary Guard facilities, Iranian air defense systems.
But Tehran is striking back, killing 3 US troops.
But America will avenge their deaths and deliver the most punishing blow to the terrorists who have waged war against basically civilization.
They're the first American deaths in a major offensive that President Trump says could lead to more losses.
He owes it to not only the families of those 3 deceased service members, he needs to make the case when you start a war of choice, why it was so critical.
Britain, France and Germany say they're ready to help stop Iran's attacks. Prime Minister Keir Starmer allowing the US to use British bases for defensive strikes.
We have taken the decision to accept this request to prevent Iran firing missiles across the region, killing innocent civilians.
The killing of the Supreme Leader has further stoked anti-US sentiment, chants of death to America in Iran. And in neighbouring Pakistan, regime supporters attempted to storm the US consulate. At least 22 people were killed in clashes with security forces in Karachi and subsequent conflicts in the country's north. Even some of Trump's own supporters are criticising his so-called Operation Epic Fury.
I don't think this was in America's interest. It's going to uncork a significant can of worms and chaos and destruction.
The United States is far from unified on this issue. One poll showed only 1 in 4 Americans supported strikes against Iran. For Donald Trump, who once promised his America would stop toppling foreign regimes, his decision to strike could be one of the biggest political risks of his presidency.
President Trump!
He does have the support of much of the Iranian diaspora.
USA is the hero of the history!
Hoping for an end to Iran's authoritarian regime. Cayman Gok, ABC News, Washington.
With the Iranian regime fighting for its very survival, the risk of a much larger conflict is only rising. ABC correspondent Ben Knight with this analysis.
The Iranian regime is facing the biggest threat to its existence since it took power in the 1979 Islamic Revolution. And after decades of mostly Cold War with the US and hot conflicts with Israel, Iran is now facing their combined and overwhelming military force. Iran can't possibly win, but the regime's fighting for survival, and that's how it's responding. With far more aggressive tactics, whether by design or not, those tactics have the potential to put pressure on Donald Trump to wind up this new and unpopular war. This time, Iran is hitting US military bases and civilian targets in neighbouring countries. It's closing down oil shipping in the Strait of Hormuz, and it's even drawn in the UK, France and Germany. The world, and especially American allies, are feeling the impact of a war they knew nothing about and didn't want, while Americans, who were already unhappy about it, are now seeing US soldiers once again die in a foreign war. The US and Israel are relying on the Iranian people to overthrow their government. But right now there's no sign of that happening. Victory for the Iranian regime might simply mean clinging to power until the shooting stops.
Ben Knight with that analysis. Foreign Minister Penny Wong has ruled out immediate government-run repatriation flights, saying the fastest way home for Australians is on commercial airlines. Thousands remain stranded across the Middle East as aviation experts warn that even after fighting stops, it could be weeks before flights resume.
Airports across the Middle East still in chaos following thousands of flight cancellations. More than 100,000 Australians remain stranded in the region. Brisbane woman Trina Hockley is one of them.
The luggage, I haven't seen it, don't know where it is, don't know how to get it. I've just got a small backpack and I've got heart medication that will run out in a few days' time.
Hours after the United States and Israel struck Iran, several Middle Eastern countries, including the United Arab Emirates, closed their skies, blocking key air corridors. Back home, travellers are furious.
I've just been told it's going to cost me at least $2,000 to get home because I've got to go via the States. So I've got to buy a new ticket and then hope that Qatar will refund me.
When we got through to this side, there was nobody here. No representative from the airline, which is Qatar. And basically we've been in the airport ever since.
Some countries have signalled plans to repatriate citizens, but the Australian government has not yet committed to that.
We have about 115,000 Australians in the region, so that is a lot of people. The best way to get them home would be for commercial flights to return because that is at scale.
But aviation experts say it could be weeks before flights to or from the region resume as airlines assess flight path safety.
They may be working with local police and military to secure additional protection and support for a limited number of flights at certain times.
Australians in the war zone are being asked to register their details with DFAT's new crisis portal, and travellers are being asked to reconsider future travel to the area.
Moving forward, if you haven't started your travel yet and you want to reconsider your travel and you have a travel insurance policy, you may be covered under a cancel at any reason clause.
For those still stranded, the more pressing concern is when and how they'll get home. Christy Sexton-McGrath, ABC News.
And there'll be more on the Middle East conflict later this hour on 7:30 when Sarah Ferguson interviews the Prime Minister. Back in South Australia, an outback tragedy has claimed the life of a motorcyclist who was swept away in floodwaters in the state's mid-north. And while the rain has eased, flooding is continuing to cut off communities and damage properties. George Yankovic reports.
An avid motorcyclist and beloved family man. Friends say 47-year-old Darren Hyman was on a memorial ride for his late father in the southern Flinders Ranges yesterday. He slipped in floodwaters while trying to recover his motorbike at a causeway that had been safely traversed moments earlier. His sister Kylie sharing on social media.
Through all the pain, we had each other. The space is now empty where you left, dark and cold.
Across parts of the north, rivers and creeks remain swollen and major outback roads closed. This truck driver winched to safety. However, locals have welcomed the downpour.
The grass grow a lot better, so we'll have, good coverage. Sheep will be happy, cattle will be happy. I think most farmers will be happy.
The Bureau of Meteorology says the rainfall was widespread, impacting parts of the Eyre Peninsula, Flinders Ranges and the West Coast. In Adelaide, a power surge at the Flinders Medical Centre resulted in surgeries being delayed, with an independent review of the incident now underway. While in Murray Bridge, some were left counting the cost of the clean-up.
All the infrastructure on the roof was not up to scratch. So, yeah, we're just trying to get it so that we hopefully can salvage some of the stuff inside.
The SES called to help as homes became inundated.
We've already had to rip up the carpets because pretty much about 50% of the carpet's been waterlogged.
The Bureau says rainfall has largely eased across the flood watch area, with no further significant falls expected in the coming days. But once the water recedes, there's still work to be done, including damage assessments and regional roads in urgent need of repairs, a process that could take weeks. George Yankovic, ABC News, Orroroo.
Labor has rolled out another commitment aimed at parents raising kids while juggling work responsibilities, making care for children out of school hours more accessible. The Liberal leader spent time in a seat that Labor has targeted with hefty funding promises, but Ashton Hearn has hosed down suggestions her party isn't going as big as her opponents when it comes to election commitments.
An election pitch to parents delivered at the school gate.
Our plan to make public schools free.
Labor backing up its pledge to scrap school fees with another policy targeted at working families, a major expansion of out-of-hours school care.
We're announcing today a commitment to introduce OSH to 68 additional primary schools across the state over the course of the next 4 years.
And a 10-year plan to make it available to every primary school student in the state. Parents welcoming the extra support.
It's hard to balance life and work and pregnancy and everything.
I think with the economy the way it is and the cost of living the way it is, I think it will help a lot of families.
So definitely, if the more space will be available, it could be really helpful.
With early voting starting in less than 2 weeks, all parties are trying to lock away as many votes as possible, but their approaches have been different. While Labor has been making statewide housing and now cost of living announcements, some recent Liberal pledges have been geographically targeted as the party looks to sandbag as many seats as possible. Ashton Hearn dismissing suggestions there's been any shortage of big-ticket pledges, while today unveiling a plan for Tailem Bend in Hammond, a once safe seat now eyed by Labor.
We're going to hop in?
Yes.
The Liberals talking up a prior commitment to fund part of the Greater Adelaide Freight Bypass, a 20% share of a $1 billion project, with the remaining funding yet to be secured.
This is not a new endeavour. This is a nation-building piece of infrastructure that South Australia needs.
Strapping in with election day just around the corner. Catherine Birmingham, ABC News.
A South Australian court has heard a 7-year-old boy was hallucinating in the hours before his death. The boy's father, Shane Wanganeen, has pleaded guilty to criminal neglect over his death, with the Supreme Court today hearing submissions on what the prosecution says were 16 hours of pain and suffering. And a warning to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander viewers, this story includes the name of a person who has died.
Distressing details emerge of 7-year-old Mackay's last days before his death. The Garna-Narunga boy's father, 43-year-old Shane Mackenzie Wanganeen, previously pleaded guilty to criminally neglecting him in February 2022. A prosecutor told the court Mackay was suffering symptoms including stomach cramps and hallucinations in the 16 hours before his death, and said Wanganeen failed to get him medical help when he was experiencing significant pain and harm. He said Mackay was diagnosed with constipation 3 days before he died, but a post-mortem examination found he died of pneumonia and sepsis. He said the boy's lungs were almost double the size of a healthy 7-year-old's because of infection and fluid build-up. Wanganeen's lawyer told the court his client had no good reason to believe Mackay was in any serious danger after being incorrectly advised by medical professionals that he was experiencing constipation. He added that Wanganeen should not be sentenced to jail as he's already experienced the worst punishment of all, the loss of his son. Wanganeen faces a maximum penalty of 15 years behind bars and is due to be sentenced next week. Eva Blandis, ABC News.
Pauline Hanson gave herself a slap on the wrist and stormed out of the Senate today after she was formally censured for making Islamophobic comments. The coalition refused to support the motion, which the One Nation leader labelled a stunt. Here's National Affairs Correspondent Jane Norman.
So I presume your seat.
A disorderly Senate.
I just got called a bitch by the racist. You happy? They are? I've given myself a slap. This is a joke.
Grappling with forces tearing at Australia's social fabric.
Senator Pauline Hanson is a racist.
I've asked you to withdraw.
I withdraw.
The commotion caused by a motion censuring Pauline Hanson for inflammatory language, suggesting there are no good Muslims.
Condemning an entire religion is not acceptable.
The motion succeeded with the support of 2 Liberal senators, the rest of the coalition critical of the One Nation leader, but refusing to censure her.
My mum's best friend is a Muslim.
So I have to say, I think that there are good Muslims in Australia.
There was a time when leaders understood some lines should not be crossed. Now we see a different approach, a race to outflank Senator Hanson to the right.
Slamming her second censure in 6 months,
This is a stunt.
the senator stormed out of the chamber.
We came here just looking for a better life.
As One Nation surges in the polls, the coalition's taking a harder line stance on immigration. Today, ramping up its rhetoric against Australia's so-called ISIS brides and their children.
Well, they are ISIS sympathisers, let's be clear.
The families of foreign fighters stuck in a Syrian refugee camp are seeking to return to Australia in what's become a political hot potato. Angus Taylor is trying to reclaim the voters drifting to One Nation while insisting the coalition is not One Nation light. The government is doing its best to draw the comparison, challenging the new Liberal leader to rule out preference deals with the minor party. Jane Norman, ABC News, Canberra.
Australians are being warned the war in the Middle East could lead to petrol prices surging by as much as 30 cents a litre. And if the conflict drags on, experts say it's likely to drive up inflation and push interest rates even higher.
An oil tanker burns in the Strait of Hormuz as Iran lashes out. Roughly 20% of the world's oil flows through here each year, and why any closure could mean more pain at the petrol pump.
So definitely on my mind because I drive a lot, to and from uni, everywhere.
It's going to completely throw a spanner in the mix. Honestly, inflation, it's getting crazy out here.
It's quite opportunistic that Australian companies will put them up.
The Strait of Hormuz is a crucial sea corridor off Iran's south coast. But it's been practically shut down, and if that continues, experts are warning it would send energy prices soaring.
If we get, $10, $20, $30 increase in the price of oil, petrol prices could potentially go up by 30 cents a litre.
But obviously what happens in the coming days and weeks will be critical. The message to Australian drivers today is this: please do not panic.
A rising oil price can also see the cost of other products increase, like polyester, garbage bags and lipstick. Airfares can take a hit as jet fuel costs rise, and home borrowers can be slugged as inflation pushes the RBA into potentially hiking rates further.
So the combination of high inflation but also resilient consumer spending, for example, would add to the case for the RBA raising rates.
Back at the petrol station, it's another one for the worry list.
It just makes me want to work harder now because I've got to get more money to pay for things like interest rates.
A further squeeze on already tight household budgets. David Taylor, ABC News.
To finance now, and the local share market was flat today and markets around Asia tumbled despite surging oil and gas stocks. Here's Alan Kohler.
Well, it was a day of contrast on the share market. Buy oil and gas stocks and retailers, sell banks and tech stocks. Market overall, down just a bit. Now, the key reason, of course, for the ups and downs is war in the Middle East, which caused the oil price to spike when trading opened and then lose half of what it gained and then tentatively rise again as commodity traders try to figure out whether the oil going through the Straits of Hormuz, that is now not going through said straits because shipping companies can't get insurance, can be replaced from other sources. Now, this 100-year chart of the oil price shows that supply shocks always result in price spikes, including the original revolution in Iran, but the biggest price rises happen because of demand, especially from China, and that's not happening this time. The other thing to mention is that it's not just oil going through those straits in the Persian Gulf. A third of the world's fertiliser and methanol does too, almost 20% of the LNG, an eighth of the world's polypropylene or basic plastic, and also it's not just what goes out that matters. The Gulf states rely on food imports coming in. Now, it's only a small percentage of the global seaborne trade in food, but it's almost all of their supplies, and apparently they're only sitting on 4 weeks of supplies. Gold and silver have also got going, as they always do when the going gets tough, and oil is up 5%. Asian markets are down sharply today, and the Aussie dollar dropped at first and then recovered to end up dead flat. Now, on the subject of house prices in February, which were flat in Melbourne and Sydney, still surging in Perth, Brisbane and Adelaide, The national capital city median rose 9.5% in the past 12 months, more than double wages. So housing affordability reached a new record level of terrible. The ratio of house prices to wages is now 3 times what it was when the Prime Minister was born. And that's finance.
To sport now, and the Matildas believe more goals will come as they work their way into the Asian Cup tournament on home soil. The team started its campaign with a scrappy 1-0 win over the Philippines in Perth.
The Matildas arrived in Queensland to prepare for their next game, relieved to have completed their first assignment.
The most important thing is that we got the win and everyone stuck together and it felt like a real together group.
Wheeler's turn.
Australia struck early against the Philippines with Caitlin Ford setting up the captain.
The opening goal of the Women's Asian Cup.
A goal from WA product Sam Kerr was what many in the Perth Stadium crowd of 44,000 had come to see, but other opportunities went begging.
Had to be.
The Matildas thought they'd doubled their lead through Hayley Rasso, but replays showed she was offside.
That's that shoulder breaking the line.
The home team did all the attacking against the world number 41, but had only 6 shots on target against a team it beat 8-0 when they last met.
Fowler has a little bit of space. A yard is often enough.
Can we be better? Yeah, absolutely. But we're getting there.
It's only been 2 days of training with the team, so we just need more time together. It's not the normal lead into a tournament.
On Thursday on the Gold Coast, the Matildas will aim to be more clinical against an Iran team that's trying to focus on football.
I don't want to sort of speak about things that, are not in my remit in terms of politics and so on, but I think football is a family. We're supporting the team.
The support for the Matildas will grow if the team can build on its first up win. Duncan Huntsdale, ABC News.
Port Adelaide's Mitch Georgiades looks primed for another big season after dominating in the Power's AFL pre-season win over West Coast on Sunday. Georgiades kicked 6 goals in the 73-point rout in Perth, troubling the Eagles' undermanned backline for most of the game. Zach Butters once again set the standard with 36 disposals and 2 goals, while Jason Horne-Francis kicked 2 goals, playing mainly as a forward as he continues his return from foot surgery. Let's take a look at South Australia's weather now, but first, tonight's photo shows a bee on lavender and was sent to us by Gary Mansell. It was another overcast day in Adelaide. In the city, it reached 21.2 degrees just before 3 this afternoon after a low of 18.6. Wet weather eased across much of the state, but there were still a few spots of rain that persisted, with Renmark recording 7 millimetres. It was 24 degrees in Woomera. There's been intense storms over the NT and Western Queensland, while cloud over the interior and southeast with a trough is generating heavy rain and storms in Victoria and Western New South Wales, leading to flooding there. Tomorrow there'll be showers and storms across the tropics, but a high should keep much of WA and our state clear. Around the country, 31 degrees for Darwin and Townsville, wet, and 27 degrees in Sydney, 20 for Melbourne. Back home, there'll be showers and storms in the far northeast, mostly during the afternoon and early evening, 22 degrees in Ceduna. Further south, expect isolated light showers about the coasts and ranges, 21 degrees in Kingscote and a top of 25 for Narracoorte. There's a severe thunderstorm warning for heavy rainfall for parts of the northeast pastoral district. There's a strong wind warning for the upper southeast coast, and the flood watch for parts of the northeast, eastern and central catchments continues, as does the flood warning for our inland rivers. It'll be partly cloudy in Adelaide tomorrow. We're heading for a top of 25 degrees after dropping to 15 overnight. On the waters, southerly winds reaching up to 20 knots north of Grange in the late afternoon, seas increasing to 1.5 metres north of Brighton. Sunrise just after 7 with sunset about 10 to 8. Sunny conditions for the week ahead, 20 27 degrees on Wednesday and Thursday, 29 degrees on Friday, then tops of 30 right through to this time next week. And that's the latest from the Adelaide newsroom. Thanks for your company. Stay with us. 7:30 is up next.